Okay, the Charlotte Major is coming to a close. Just one more match, the grand final, and we'll talk about which teams those are in just a second. Team Liquid versus Dark Zero was the first game of the day, so yeah, we're going to go over the two semifinals before we do the prediction for the grand final. It was a 2-1 victory for Dark Zero, but I think this was a little bit of an upset if we take a look at the predictions here. 65% of voters here thought Team Liquid would win, and yeah, I did think Liquid was the favorite. I voted for them as the favorite. I sort of wish I picked Dark Zero, obviously, because they got the victory. But the whole time I was cheering for Dark Zero, but like in the back of my head, I was like sort of cheering for Liquid because I predicted them. So unfortunate in some regards there. They went to Theme Park, and it was an absolute destruction by Liquid 7-1, and it looked like they were just going to run over Dark Zero, but in the end, it just turned out to be another slow start for Dark Zero. They turned it around, 7-3 win on Chalet, not as dominant as the 7-1 here, but still a dominant victory. And then we go to Oregon, and Liquid, I think, thought of as one of the best, if not the best, Oregon teams in the world, and maybe not after this result, but before it, I think that was the case. So yeah, very solid win, no overtime in this series. Taking a look at the stats here, Palu and Pamazu have almost identical stat lines, same rating, same KD, except for Pamazu had one more death, same entry KD, same cost, same KPR, almost a very similar survival rate. And then one of them had a plant, one of them had a 1vx, so, and then headshot rating's a little bit different, but yeah, very scarily similar. And then almost the rest of them were in like kind of a similar range, but you'll notice that, of course, Dark Zero's average for these four players is a decent bit higher than the average for Liquid's other four players. And that's the story of the game. They both had their pop-off performer, Palu and Pamazu, but it was the rest of the team that was good enough in the case of Dark Zero to get them the win in the match. Yeah, Nest not doing too hot by his standards, 21, 3-3, just dead even, but 0.9 rating. PSK struggling a little bit, well, maybe back to the same PSK as some people anticipate. Maybe Liquid will make a roster move after this result. Maybe PSK will be dropped. Maybe they won't. I don't know. We'll have to see. But yeah, so just, good on Dark Zero to win when they weren't expected to win, and I think this really proves that NA is indeed on top. Liquid got eliminated, and that left the final three teams in the tournament as all NA teams: Dark Zero, Astralis, and Oxygen. And I guess that's all for this match, right? We'll talk about Dark Zero again when we talk about the grand final. But okay, let's go over to that other game now. All right, Oxygen versus Astralis 2-0. This is an absolute destruction, and I suppose the biggest destruction we'll probably see for the entire tournament. I guess Liquid did like a 7-1 on Furia in the group stage, but that's like a best of one. There was a 7-1 in here, but they averaged a 7-2 because they got a 7-3 on Skyscraper. They got a 7-1 on Oregon. So biggest beatdown of the playoffs, if nothing else. It's very unlikely anything like this will be replicated in the grand final. So maybe Astralis can average a 7-2 or better against Dark Zero, or Dark Zero against Astralis, but yeah, over the course of 3 maps, that seems a bit ridiculous. So Oxygen, the favorite here, but I did pick Astralis, so I guess I'm on 5 out of 6 for predictions in the playoffs, which is pretty good, I think. And well, if I just gone NA all the way, pick Dark Zero over Liquid, I could be 6 out of 6, but alas. Okay, so what happened? I think Skyscraper, yeah, it favored Astralis. It was their map pick, and Oregon seemed like it should favor Oxygen being their map pick. Maybe not heavily so. I think Oxygen also thought of as one of the best Oregon teams in the world, but Astralis no slouches, and well, in practice, it was just destruction, the likes of which have very rarely been seen. Astralis started on attack. They took 5 of the 6 attacks, and then they switched sides, and they just won 2 defenses and won that quite handily. And I guess I sort of breezed over Skyscraper. Yeah, it's just their map pick, and it could have certainly been closer. I think, didn't Oxygen just play this against BDS, and it went either 14 or 15 rounds or whatever? They had to make a little bit of a comeback, but they had been seen playing it, so they're not totally uncomfortable on the map. But Astralis won. When I saw the 7-3, I thought maybe this isn't over. Like, Oxygen should win Oregon, and then it'll go to the theme park. But we never did see the theme park. Astralis just, man, what a crushing. And looking at the stats, yeah, it is Forest on top. I'm starting to wonder, is this just like the best pickup of all time? And very surprisingly so. Forest was on that E United team, and he was bad, and the team was bad, and he got dropped. And then he went down and he slummed it, and call out as well. And they went and they slummed it out in Challenger League for the longest time, the two of them together. And then they get on to Astralis finally with Callout as the coach, Forrest as a player. And Callout seems to have revolutionized the the mental and the strategy and everything for this roster, and Forrest is just playing incredibly and probably also had a hand in that other stuff. Yeah, I mean, because not only is he playing incredibly, but the addition of those two onto the roster seem to have just brought everyone else to a whole nother level. Iconic continues to be insane in this tournament. Maybe not his best performance here, but I mean, at a 1.3 rating, it's still super solid. DP Fire, very good here as well. And then Shuttle and J9O, a little bit quiet, but around a 1.0 rating is still very solid. Everyone on Astralis higher than everyone on Oxygen, with Newers being the standout performer. Not like a 1.02 rating is especially good, but compared to the other ones, it is. Foxay really struggling, minus 11.49 rating. This is sort of true in this game and in this match, and also true of the tournament as a whole. We'll look at some stats at the end just for these four teams, and where two of the teams end at and where the other two teams are currently at before their grand final showdown. And I think that's all I want to talk about here. Again, we'll talk about some more of the Astralis players when we talk about the grand final, which I'm about to do just right now. Okay, the grand final is going to be between Dark Zero and Astralis. It's going to be tomorrow. It's going to be a best 3 out of 5. Hopefully it'll be a killer match. I thought about doing map predictions for it, but I'm just going to let it ride. So who do I think is going to take it? Who do I want to take it? I'll talk about that in a minute. Let's talk about some storyline stuff first. So I mentioned in the previous video the NJR versus Iconic storyline. I sort of neglected to mention J9O as well. He was also on a team with them, but I feel like the sort of rivalry is more between NJR and Iconic. But no, I mean, I'll mention J9O as well. Yeah, they were all three on a really super good T3 team, one of, if just not the best T3 teams of all time. And now here they are. I think it really goes to show how there is just some maybe hidden talent that some people that only watch T1 aren't aware of, just hiding out in T2 and T3, and maybe give it a little bit more of a shot. I think also maybe like Gomez and Diaz on X that illustrate this as well. And yeah, I also think that these three players are a big reason why NA is so good right now. They're obviously elevating these two teams to being in the grand finals. Iconic has been incredible in this event. J9O a little bit quiet on Astralis, but still an important part of the team. And then over on Dark Zero, NJR had a really, really good group stage, and he's been a little bit quieter in the playoffs, but I think he's still like the second highest rated player on the team, so he's been quite good. Other than that, Eclipse and Shuttle, with Eclipse being on Dark Zero and Shuttle being on Astralis, they used to team together on Rogue, so a little bit of a rivalry there. Eclipse and Hyper, they've both been on Dark Zero for a long, long time, and really not much to show for it. So I think not only they, but also their supporters would love to see them finally get some sort of win. And then, I mean, Canadian, yeah, so if he wins this, does he attain GOAT status? People always like to mention Nesk and Palu in the GOAT conversation. Nesk, maybe he doesn't have quite the achievements of the other two, but sort of the statistics and the longevity to have a little bit of a claim. And then there's Pengu, who has not only incredible stats, but also achievements galore, more than anybody else really. But Canadian is sort of catching up to him, and perhaps you even count some of Canadians more highly. Also, if you want to count, I mean, grand finals appearances, he has a few of those in which he didn't actually get first place. But right, Canadian's done this on 3 different teams now. So that original Continuum/EG team, they won SI. It was the first SI, so a little bit of a Mickey Mouse SI, but still an SI, I guess. And then on Space Station, they won SI 2020. And then if they win a major here with Dark Zero, so that's 3 different teams. Pengu only did it on 1 team, I guess technically 2, Penta and G2, but it's the same team really. 2 different orgs, but the same team. And right, yeah, Canadian, also his events being more modern. I think SI 2020, of course we've had 2 SI since then, but still a pretty modern, fairly modern event, maybe in some regards like the beginning of the modern era. And well, we're not really here to define eras and whatnot, but obviously this being the most recent event if he wins it. So yeah, maybe that's a conversation we'll come back to having if he does win this event, if Dark Zero do win this event. And then on the other hand, Astralis, yeah, I think I mentioned it earlier, Forrest, one of just the seemingly best pickups of all time, and yeah, also I think I said before, weirdly so. You wouldn't think just pulling him out of T2, not that he was bad in T2, he was pretty good by most standards, but you wouldn't think that he would set the world on fire like he has. And no disrespect to call out, let's mention him as well. Same sort of thing, even though he's not on the playing roster, he has been an integral part. So we'll maybe talk about that more if they are the ones to win this event. But I still think obviously excellent pickups, even if they only get second place here. So, I mean, and then who did I not mention? Pambazoo, yeah, he's still fairly fresh. would love to get a win, and I think at this point he's, maybe been the most important player in the tournament. Yeah, and JR brought that consistency in the group stage, but Pamazoo just brought that absolute necessary electricity against Liquid. So, big props to him there. He did get them into this grand final in the most direct sense. And then on Astralis, I mentioned Shuttle. I mentioned Jaina. Oh, DP Fire. Just also a fairly new player, but I think he's been very good in the time he's been on the roster. Also sort of flexible. I think when he was brought in, he was thought of. It seemed like they were bringing him in as more of a fragger, and now he's on a little bit more of a supporting role, like flank watch type thing. And he's seemed to have done quite well with it thus far. So I hope I mentioned all 10 of the players. If not, well, it is what it is. I'm going with Astralis here. I've just liked their play better. I think it's been more exciting, but also more impressive. And then, obviously with them just demolishing Oxygen, the only team that managed to beat them in the NAL. They only have, 3 map losses over the course of NAL Stage 1 and this event combined. So 1 map loss to Oxygen, 1 to BDS, and 1 to XSET. That's all they've lost. Yeah, it's so incredible. Dark Zero has also been quite good this tournament, obviously. They lost the 1 map to Liquid, 1 to Team 1, and 1 to, it was W7M, right? And then I guess a few map losses in NAL. So yeah, I do think Astralis is more impressive overall, but I do think Dark Zero could take it quite easily. People like to mention the clash of playstyles here. Dark Zero, I don't think they're this super rigid, slow, methodical team that they used to be, and that people still like to say that they are. I think in a relative sense they are, because there are obviously quicker, fiery, feistier teams than them, but you don't really do very well in this meta playing the way that people prescribe to Dark Zero as playing. I think Canadian's always been a sort of really adaptive player, and then Pamba and NJR pretty flexible as well. So I guess maybe Eclipse and Hyper if you want to count them in that aspect for them being on the roster for the long time, even back when the team played that way. I guess maybe that sentiment maybe remains a little bit, but I don't think so. I think people love to blow it out of proportion and talk about something that is no longer really the case. But in stark contrast, Astralis does make them look like Dark Zero is a very methodical team. Astralis just is an absolute squad of playmakers. Watching Forrest bust into sight with Ace and get a 3K and just secure a round single-handedly almost is incredible. And if that had gone differently, people are like, why'd you just throw, bro? Why'd you run into sight? You were the hard breach. But yeah, just incredible playmaking. Iconic doing similar things. He actually does it from Finca or whatever. And then anyone else on the team can also do it. JNNO, DP Fire, and Shuttle. All of them incredible playmaking potential, and they all come together to just do extremely nasty crossfires and pinches and just plays in general. Yeah, they're quite good. And if they win this, in handy fashion, I think they're just quite obviously the best team in the world at the moment. And not that they got to play every other team, and not that it's totally clear, but I think it'll be clear enough if they do take a decisive victory, or even just a regular victory. Yeah, just the one at most. If they win this, that means they could have only lost 2 maps, and that means again only five map losses over the course of this entire event and NAL Stage 1. So crazy. So yes, I am backing Astralis. I think Dark Zero is a perfectly fine team to root for. I'll be happy enough if they win, but I would prefer Astralis to win, just for the sake of it, and obviously because I'm predicting them. So yeah, one last thing I just wanted to do. Let's look at the final 4 teams' stats going into the final day. And again, 2 of them are already eliminated, but it is what it is. So Dark Zero, first of all, pretty even spread, only a 0.15 range from the top to the bottom. Pamazoo on the top now, quite good in entry, quite good in KD. NJR, pretty similar as well. And entry not as good, but his KD is solid, and stats across the board pretty solid. Eclipse and Hyper a little bit quieter, but Eclipse, 1.04 rating. These stats are very good. He is their smoke and thermite main, don't forget. Hyper, a little bit quiet, and he has been for quite a while now. He's playing Finca and Alibi over here. You'd expect a little bit more from him, but I guess as long as Pamazoo is playing as spectacularly as he has been, it's okay. And then Canadian pulling up the rear, but it's okay. He does his job. He's the IGL. It is what it is. So I think pretty even stat distribution on Dark Zero does a lot for them, and also the fact that they get so many objective plays, 18 plants on Eclipse, is kind of nuts. And then we have Liquid. Palu continues to be incredible and just the best player in the world at the moment. By a pretty wide margin, it seems. At any given event, he's not always the highest rated player, but he's almost always if not the highest rated player, top 3, top 5 or whatever. And yeah, just obviously insane. Plus 33, plus 14 on entry. This guy is inscrutable. But unfortunately, the rest of his team can't always back him up all the time. Resets, Ask, and Nesk, pretty good stats across the board. PSK, not terrible, just a little bit below 1.0, pretty similar to Canadian, but do keep in mind, I don't think PSK is the one. IGLing over here, yeah, Team Liquid, they just came up a little bit short, and I guess it's about time to start looking in the mirror and ask, what is our issue? Ask, funny. And then Oxygen, yeah, I mentioned this earlier. Newer is just head and shoulders better than everyone else. Nobody doing terribly. Foxay, the lowest one here, but he's a like semi-support kind of role, and the IGL. So again, it is expected. Vertical, I think a little bit of hot and cold syndrome. I don't think he had an incredible performance at SI, and I don't know when the last time he had an incredible international performance was, even though he has incredible domestic performances. Stage 3 of last year and this most recent stage, so the two most recent stages, he performed incredibly, like out of this world stats, but he just can't put them up at the international events. And Newers, I think, carried a little bit in this regard. Yeah, so crazy for his first event, also Dream's first event, but solid from him being the hard breach smoke main. But yeah, Newers coming straight out of T3, straight into NAL, straight into second place, straight into top 4 at this event, and he was a big reason. Look at these entry stats, KD, all this stuff. Not only how positive he was on the entry, but just the sheer number he got involved in. Yeah, he was crazy at this event, and I think a big reason they made such a deep run. And if the rest of his team had backed him up in this most recent series, maybe it would have been closer. Maybe they could have even beaten Astralis. Who's to say? But okay, that's it for Oxygen, and the final one to take a look at is Astralis themselves. So Iconic, yeah, he's been nuts. I think he's the second highest rated player in the tournament. It's Shaiko being the only one above him by just a 0.01. If Iconic has another really good series in the grand final, he should end the tournament as the highest rated player. His KPR is very close to 1.0, so he could also reach that. His stats are incredible. Entry, only a little bit positive, but still getting involved in that many and still going positive is just a great boon to your team. And then Forest, are you kidding me? Look at these stats. This dude is the hard support player on their team, and he's doing this sort of stuff. Yeah, Iconic's stats might be a little bit better, but at this point, it looks like Forest has been the more important player at this event. And I think it's obvious when you frame it in the way that they nearly got relegated in Stage 3, and then the only thing that changed was they picked up Forest and Call Out. And now he's putting up these stats, and they're maybe about to win this grand final. Yeah, can't take anything away from Iconic, but unless Forest absolutely shits the bed in the grand final and Iconic goes nuke, I think Forest is sort of feeling like the MVP in my eyes. And then DP Fire and J9O, a little bit more modest stats, a little bit quieter, but still right around a 1.1 is nothing to scoff at. Still quite impressive stats. And then Shuttle sort of bringing up the rear. Not terrible stats, only -10. Not too bad. Maybe you'd expect a little bit better from him considering the roles he plays. And he's sort of that veteran player. But just sometimes somebody just has a little bit worse stats than the other ones, and I don't think it's terrible. Maybe if he has really bad stats in the grand final, it's a little bit more to be concerned about, but I don't think it's anything too terrible at the moment. And I suppose that does it. Yeah, so if you have any comments about anything from this video, let me know. If I missed any important points on the semifinals, or if you have a strong opinion on the grand final, if you really think Astralis is going to take it, or probably more, you'll pipe up more if you think Dark Zero is going to take it, because that's not the one I predicted. But any other comments, leave them below, and a like and a subscription would also be appreciated. All right, with all of that being said, I will catch you guys in the next video.